to the Perrysburg Pulse podcast. Our special guest today is Superintendent of Perrysburg Schools, and I'm sure he's had a busy day. Everybody, please welcome Tom Hosler. Good morning, good afternoon. How are you, sir?
Good, Andrew. How are you?
So
you doing?
I mean, I know you've had probably a crazy day today, and it's 4:30 in the afternoon as we tape this on a Wednesday, and we are starting to see snowflakes now. But it's been all day, and I'm just gonna let you riff on your thoughts here on the day before I even ask you a question. Go ahead, Tom. You're on. You're on.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I appreciate the time, and it's always great to catch up with you. So, so thanks for that. Um, you know, there's no exact science to meteorology, and those guys are like real scientists. So, um, you know, when you get into a situation like today where they are forecasting the weather and it's supposed to be coming the way that it is, it's a real challenge for superintendents, certainly a challenge for us. We want to get the right call to be safe for our students and staff and everyone. And at the same time, we live in the north and it snows and kids have to go to school in the winter conditions. So, trying to thread that needle is sometimes a challenge. So last night, looking at the forecast, there was snow that was supposed to be beginning at, 5 a.m. and picking up through the day. And our main concern was, at 4 o'clock, can we get all the kids home in a safe environment? Our elementary students going to be able to walk home at the end of the day if we have 5 or 6 inches of snow falling and it's a real mess. So we made the decision to cancel in light of that. And then today we had a lot of standing water, but not so much snow. And and that's the way it goes sometimes. So
let me ask you a question.
It's always better to wait. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Let me ask you a question. Is it odd how angry people get? And it seems like it's been worse the last few years. I mean, meteorology is a science, and all you can do is take the information that you have, and with that information, you make the best guess. Mother Nature doesn't make an appointment. She doesn't say, "Hey, I'm going to be here at 4:34. Here I come." She kind of comes when she wants, and all you can do is, like you said, take the best information and make a call. But is it odd how angry people get with? And for you, I mean, this. I'll start with that. It's just odd to me that, like, all over Facebook they're angry, like viscerally angry.
So if you don't go on social media and you're not on Facebook, it really doesn't affect you that people are mad and they're saying things. And Andrew, that's kind of where I live and that's where I am. So you do the best that you can with the information that you have. And we had we had two complaints come into the office today, and they were both parents, a phone call and an email, that were upset that we didn't cancel early enough last night. So that gives you perspective of the range of stuff that we deal with. So, I've been a superintendent for 22 years. I think the tone in the last couple of years, people are a little more less polite, maybe a little bit more cruel, and I think you're seeing that across the board. I don't think it's just directed to school folks, which is really sad. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. We're going to look and evaluate the roads, the conditions, look at the forecast, and it doesn't matter because we're going to get people upset with no matter what decision we make. So in some ways, it's a little bit liberating because you just make the best decision for kids and make the best decision based on the information that you have. And you know what? We're not perfect, and sometimes we get it wrong, like today, frankly. So
I was just going to say, we have to start taking intent into consideration when we get so angry. And there's no nefarious intent. You didn't want to keep people home. You didn't want to not go to work today. Your only goal was to keep kids safe. And if you keep that in mind, how can you be angry at that? You can disagree with your decision, but as long as it's in the right place, it's just odd to me to see this. And that's with a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think, you take a step back and you say, okay, you know, name me a school district that was open today in Northwest Ohio, and there aren't many
No.
because, we're all being, given the same information, and the risks, as they were describing it, were high. You never want to start school and then be in a position where at the end of the day, you can't get the kids home. And you never want to send kids home early
Mhm.
because you have to make contact with every family of an elementary age student to say, will someone be there to receive this child? So sending kids home in the middle of the day is a nightmare, for families and for students, and it takes hours to go through and make those contacts. So so those are the factors that play into it. But there's some days we get it right, there's some days we get it wrong, and that's the nature of the weather. And that's kind of where it is.
Well,
So
when it comes to deciding to cancel school for whatever reason, and I know you get input from a lot of people, but is it 100% your call in the end?
um most of the time it is. So most of the time it is. If there's a level 3 snow emergency, which doesn't happen very often, then that kind of takes the decision out of your hands.
Mhm,
And at that point in time, especially in Wood County, we wouldn't be going.
mhm.
And so that is a factor. So yeah, it comes down to the superintendent. And I tell you, I personally go out and check the roads on those questionable mornings. So I have one route that I take, and the transportation supervisor takes the other route. We talk throughout that from 4 a.m. to about 6 a.m. We talk through what we're seeing and experiencing, and then we look at the weather forecast. Is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? Is it, the road crews, are they going to work out? What about the temperature? Because salt and other things work better at warmer temperatures than cold. So all these things go through your mind. And as much as we like to joke about snow days and tease, it is a very stressful window for us to have to make those decisions. And the reason I check the roads, the reason I'm out there personally and not delegating it, is because heaven forbid something were what it was like
Mhm.
out there. And so that's really important to me, is knowing what it's like, what the conditions are, and trying to make that best decision with boots on the ground. And that's important to me. So because we worry about that.
How much, are there districts that you talk to, when making decisions like that? Do you talk to all of them, all the superintendents? Are there 1 or 2 that you kinda, lean towards?
There's a lot of theories out there. So let me start with that if Mommy cancels, then Perrysburg cancels, or if Perrysburg cancels, then these schools will follow, or vice versa. And every community is different. Every school district, the makeup is very different. Mommy, for example, across the river, they're just they're a small, very compact district. It's city. There's roads, there's sidewalks. It's pretty sheltered with trees and the way it sits. And you compare that to Eastwood, w- which is a large district, a lot of ground, not really very densely populated, and all open country roads. And
Mhm,
so 2 inches of snow with 20-mile-an-hour winds in Maumee, not a big deal. But 2 inches of snow in Eastwood or southern parts of our district with 20-mile-an-hour winds and drifting, that's dangerous. You're gonna have
mm,
to take a little bit extra time evaluating things. So it's really hard, what 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 happens in Maumee or Rossford. We do kind of check in with each other because we have shared programs. We all send our kids to Penna, and those
mhm.
kinds of things are important to us. Athletic events is another whole conversation, but generally speaking, it's what you're experiencing.
Mhm.
And Andrew, I think you probably the only one out, and you never want to be the only one in. So you don't want to be that last bird on the wire. So you do pay attention, and every once in a while, what my youngest was a Perrysburg grad, and I know one day I was checking the roads, and it was a tough morning, and the transportation and I are going back and forth, and my wife called and said, she goes, I just want to point out that you are the only school that's open right now, and you do have a son walking the halls. She was kind of teasing me. So, um, that's a little bit of peer pressure there,
Right,
but
right.
I think, like I said, you know what those other districts are doing, and you understand why. And like I said, the only time it becomes an issue is when if you're out there checking the roads and you're the only one thinks you should cancel, everyone else is open, then you're going to get a little extra attention, or vice versa. So,
Did you feel that a couple weeks ago? There was a couple weeks ago, and it was cold. It was in the single digits, I think. And then I from what I remember, you would know better than I, but Perrysburg was the only one that didn't close. And I know that there were some parents that were mad. But to me, it made sense because we knew that there was a weather the next week on the horizon. Because you had 10-day forecast, you saw that, and man, it seemed like you were like, all right, they're going to go because next week they're going to be off, which would have been this week. I think this was last week because it would have been this week. But you were the only one that stayed open, I think, from what I remember. What are your recollections of that last week?
yeah, so we had a snow event on Sunday,
Hmm.
and that's when the snow fell. So, you had all Sunday. Road crews were out working. The temperatures were pretty cold, and we had an event on Sunday night that we didn't cancel. And you looked at the road conditions on Monday morning; they really hadn't changed in 24 hours. So when we checked the roads, some of the roads were still snow covered, but they'd been that way for 24 hours. They weren't any worse than they were before. And probably as when you get back into those neighborhoods, there's not going to be much change in the next couple of days. So if you cancel on Monday, what makes it better on Tuesday? Because they're not gonna change. The temperatures were too low, salt wouldn't work. They already scraped them, and so you're there. And so in those situations, we say, okay, the neighborhoods are still snow covered. You're pretty much 2 blocks away in most cases to getting to a good road, to one that's paved, or to a main road that was wide open. So, you do look at those kinds of things, and you can't always. And we draw from the city of Perrysburg, but also Perrysburg Township and Middleton Township, and they all three have their own road crews and their own priorities in their areas. So your one area of the district could be in rough shape because the crews just haven't gotten to that area. But you can't cancel school for the rest of the district because that southwest corner isn't in good shape. You got to kind of balance it.
Hmm. Is there an official channel that you use as far as weather information? And I don't mean channel like TV. I mean just an official. Is there an official pipeline of information, or does everyone use their own, or do you take 13, 11, and 24 and kind of look at all of them and then take the conglomeration of all, or is there someone that you kind of glean towards? I know Chris Vickers is a Perrysburg guy, so maybe that's my guy. I don't
Yeah,
know. But is
yeah.
there a guy that you trust, or a person or a pipeline that you trust more than others, or do you just take it all into consideration?
We're really lucky because I think all the stations have, proven, trusted voices with meteorology. And when you line up each of their forecasts, they're not wildly different. You'll see maybe an hour or two here earlier starting than the other one predicts. So I do take them all in, and especially as we get closer, because that 12 hours going into the event, that's when you really start to pay attention and dig into the hour by hour forecast. And even last night, there was snow was starting before dawn in some of those forecasts 12 hours
Mhm,
away, and you usually can trust that.
mhm,
So I didn't hear. I'll go back and watch online the 12 o'clock news and kind of get a feel for what their explanation was. But obviously something changed. I don't know if the temperatures didn't drop like they were supposed to, or whatever it was. But it's snowing now, and we'll be evaluating things tonight. And, we'll see what tomorrow brings. But we're lucky. We've had a good run with meteorologists, and they're all nice people. I've had opportunity to interact with them off social media, and they're all very concerned about the schools and kids and safety. So
the other thing that's kind of odd to me is if you're on social media is the rooting for a snow day by parents. Now I get it. I mean, that might just be in the DNA because you've always wanted those snow days. But in my mind, it's like we've missed so much school over the last 2 years. It's like, man, just another day miss here and another day miss there. And when you don't have the consistent weeks, it really throws your learning off, I would assume.
Yeah. I think there's pockets of parents that are a little bit nostalgia, a little bit nostalgia starts to come in, and they remember when they had a snow day and what it was like, and the kids look forward to it. But it becomes a topic that the teachers, um, we probably, there's the old thing, Andrew, and I don't know if you're in your house if you had the same thing where kids would wear their pajamas inside out, because that meant, or you flush. Um, Ice cubes.
Ice
There's
cubes.
all different, yeah. There's all different kinds of things that go on, and I would say probably teachers get involved with that just as much as parents. They're rooting for those days too, and I think I think they just want that, and it's fun. It's the build up. It's the newscast. It's hearing about it for 3 days out. Like, boy, is this going to be the big one? And then you're going to the store and buying extra milk and extra bread, and then you're there's this buildup, and it's almost like that release, like, all right, we got it, it's a snow day, and all the plans have come together. So yeah, it's a little intense sometimes. And then you have other parents that it's a hassle that, you have a single parent or families with working parents, and it's a snow day and they have to scramble for, so that I feel bad for those families too. But so that's why you shouldn't just let's have 10 snow days a year because we can. That affects a lot of families, a lot of workers, and you don't, it's there to be safe for kids. And sometimes we have to remind teachers and staff that we don't call snow days because of their safety. That sounds really harsh because we do care about them, but it's about getting the buses stopped and kids walking to school, and um, being able to have traffic stop when buses are loading up students or unloading students. So those are the things we look at. Adults can navigate the snow pretty well. So
Well, with as much as we put into remote learning over the last couple of years and the resources and things like that, how far away, or do you foresee a time when you can just flip a switch to where, hey, today's remote learning, and we're going to do the same thing that we were going to do in class? I think I read this morning in the Blade, they talked a little bit about that, but just that we're not there yet. But Perrysburg being maybe a little more affluent district, I would think that you'd be maybe closer to that than maybe a TPS or some of the other districts. What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I think it's something that we're approaching, and so in some classes today, I know that teachers communicated with students and said, hey, listen, we can't afford to fall behind. We're on a schedule. We're gearing up for AP testing, or we have an exam. So I need you to, on your day off, you need to go in and do X, Y, and Z and take care of that. So that is happening, and that's a little bit of that. But think about it. Like, let's say you're a third grade teacher and you're prepared tomorrow for face-to-face instruction. You've got these lesson plans, you got reading groups, you have all these things lined up. And then normally we cancel school that morning. So let's say at 6 o'clock you get a call that school's been canceled. So you as a teacher would have to convert all of those lessons that you had planned, um, in that morning. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have to rely on the fact that those parents that we talked about earlier that are scrambling and they're scooping up their kids while they're sleeping, putting them in the minivan and driving them and dropping them off at grandma and grandpa. Are they going to have internet access? And grandma and grandpa, are they going to be able to sit with the second or third grader and make sure they're logged on and able to, the cameras working on the laptop? And so there's just a lot of things with the pandemic. you know, Teachers had time to plan. Teachers had designated days where they were uploading things. Teachers were recording their lessons. They were in their classrooms recording. They were posting the units. Um, they had the plan to do that. But our teachers are teaching, every day face to face, and then in a matter of 2 hours, you have to convert a 6 hour day. And that turnaround is a lot. For high school kids, older kids, it's a much easier transition for some cases, but you think from K to 8, it's a little bit of a stretch. So it's not quite as easy. Unlike the pandemic when everyone was home and people made those arrangements and kids knew I got to be up in front of the laptop at 10 a.m. But changing all of that on 2 hours notice is a challenge.
So
So
spur of the moment, remote
mhm.
learning is not anytime soon. And those are good answers I didn't
No.
even think about. That was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and one other thing is we know that nationwide students have gotten behind because of the pandemic over the last almost 3 years now. Has there ever been any consideration for? I think I read somewhere that maybe a summer school or something like that to maybe help make up for some of that lost time. Is that something that you've considered or thought of? I'm guessing there would be mutiny with the parents taking away some of the summer. But is there anything given? Have you given any thought to anything like that?
We're doing some different types of interventions. It's more targeted. The learning gaps that we saw, what we found, generally speaking, are the students that were struggling going into COVID, the ones that we knew based on the data that we collect throughout the year that they were not performing where they need to be. Those students during the pandemic, continued to struggle, and we saw the gaps maybe even widen. For a large number of our students, we were throughout the pandemic, our teachers, our staff did a terrific job. We were open for a couple of weeks, except for a couple of weeks where we were remote. And so all of last year, we were pretty much up and running. Our elementaries were up and running 4 days a week, and then that fifth day was a work day for our teachers who were doing the online because we had kids that were quarantined. Um, so there wasn't as much learning loss as you would think because we were engaged most of the year. High school was every other day, so we do know that there's some things that teachers are seeing this year, especially with those sequential courses, foreign language or math, where they are working hard to build those. So we're doing more targeted interventions. So saying these are the four kids in this classroom that need that additional reading support, and then we're giving them that support in real time. So when you have districts that were closed to face-to-face learning, in-person learning for a whole year, now you're talking about the entire system needing to, and that's where summer school could come into play. But for us, I think it's more of that surgical, here are the students we need those interventions with. Here are some students that need that remediation at the high school level. How can we connect them? And we're
Mhm.
still planning. This isn't a one and done. This is going to be an ongoing multi-year evaluation, monitoring, intervention, evaluating and then intervention. So we have our work cut out for us, but we're up for the challenge.
And then, can you see me? Can you see me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I cut out for my video cut out for a minute. Okay,
Okay.
final question.
Yeah.
As far as your job, the harder things, the easier things, the fun things, where does the canceling of having to call school off fall into? Is it really a tough thing, or is it just part of your day? It's make it a
Um,
little more than it actually is.
yeah. I think those 2 hours where you're checking the roads in the morning, and if it's a tough decision, uh, um, it is nerve wracking, and it doesn't stop just there. Because after the decision is made, I talk to the transportation director throughout the morning to get updates. How is it going? Our bus is running late. Are they on time?
Mhm.
Our resource officer, I talk to them about, did you hear about any accidents? You're always got this kind of pit in the stomach kind of a feel, until all the buses are in, all the kids are in. And then you repeat that in the afternoon, if it's a questionable afternoon, and I wait till all the buses come in. The other thing people don't realize is, the decisions aren't just about school, but we have athletic events that are happening the rest of this week. We've got show choir that's heading into Indiana for the night. We've got teams that are traveling to Northeast Ohio for competition. So it isn't just school. It is all of those individual. So when the weather gets bad, it really wears you out because it's that 4 to 6 a.m. and then you're on the phone with the athletic director at 5 o'clock saying, "What do we do?" And then you're looking ahead at the weekend and saying, "Should we cancel that?" And so when you get those patches where there's a lot, it's fun. The kids look forward to it. You can joke about it when you're not in the moment. up until a couple of years ago, we tweet out fun things and kids would get a kick out of it. But today, there's just this kind of edge to everyone. So it's like, I'm not going to joke or not going to
Right, right.
tease. And I posted to Twitter last night. 7 years ago on February 2nd, we canceled school, and it was a picture of a guy with snowshoes in the mountains. And I said, actual photo of me checking River Road this morning.
I saw
You know,
that.
yeah, and I'm not doing that today because people are just really just,
Well, it's funny
yeah.
because I was looking at at one of the Facebook pages, and actually someone sent it to me in the Lucas County Sheriff's Office. Someone said, "Not even any snow in Maumee, and y'all putting out a level 1. What a joke!" And then the Lucas County Sheriff's official page goes, "We told the snow to avoid Maumee due to the traffic pattern on Conant Street." Another
Yeah.
one, another one was, "Will municipal court be open tomorrow?" And the Lucas County Sheriff's Office says the jail will be open. But I know
Yeah, they're
you got to be careful with that stuff nowadays, and so
yeah,
it's a different world, man. I appreciate you
yeah,
coming on because we made this interview at 4:30, and I was like, well, it's going to be
yeah,
more of a formality now, but really
yeah,
this is like the hot time, and you jumped on here and answered all the questions, and man, I know it's a little
yeah.
bit of a hot seat for you today, so I appreciate it. And there was one other thing that I was going to say, but I don't remember. Tomorrow we'll just see. We just have to watch our social.
Yeah.
You guys are real good at getting the message out. Like I'll get a phone call, I'll get an email, I'll get a text message. You can't
Yeah.
miss when school is off. We know when school's
No,
going to be off.
no, and at 6 o'clock, we had to cancel. We were doing a master planning for, with all the growth in Perrysburg. We pulled together about 65, 75 community members. So we were dividing up the kickoff for that for the three committees that are working. So last night was in person. So from 6 to about 7:30, we were doing a presentation. So I didn't get there. I didn't really get a chance to talk to our transportation director, look at the weather, and came. So people were at that, well, why isn't he making this decision? And it's like,
Right.
tonight I've got a Zoom from 6 to roughly 7:30, part two. So we're not going to be putting anything out right away because in the next hour before this other Zoom, we're not going to see that any significant changes. So we'll communicate what that is exactly, but we try to let families know so they can plan accordingly.
And then looking back on today, knowing what you don't, but knowing what you know now, if you would have known it then, I'm guessing there would have been school today.
Yeah, we could have had school.
Yeah.
Standing water wouldn't have hurt anybody. That's fine. Again, the forecast is what it is, and I'll say this: I wouldn't say this, to a large, group of people live, face to face. But it's we're in the third quarter. It's a challenging time. The high school has been really handling the situation well, but we had a beloved teacher who died,
Hmm.
this past Friday, and calling hours are this Friday, and there's kids and staff that are really hurting and a little bit raw. And if I'm going to blow a call, and we should have had school, but we didn't, maybe that was in the cards because people needed that, in that building and in that circle of people. So if I had to blow one, maybe by design, this is the way fate had it to give people that extra time to just kind of collect themselves a little bit more. So nobody got hurt. There were no bus accidents, and
Amen.
we lived to fight another day. Right?
Absolutely. After 22 years, is the job still fun?
It is. It is. We have great kids. We have a terrific staff. And we have a community that expects a lot but gives a lot, and just very grateful for the opportunity. And I know when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do when I was growing up, my dad said, don't take a job, choose a profession, something you're going to be happy with. And at that time I could have done some other things and probably made more money. And this is where I was meant to be. So I still have that feeling, so after all those years. So
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking time to talk to us this afternoon. You're doing an awesome job, and I appreciate your time. Thank you, Tom. It is Perrysburg Superintendent Tom Hosler talking about the situation going on here in the Perrysburg Pulse podcast. Thank you guys for tuning in. We do appreciate it.